Welcome to HomeSpot, everyone. My name is Luis, and I know it's been a long time since I've done one of these videos, but I am ready to get back to it. It's not that I haven't been building, more than anything, it's just that I haven't hit record or edited anything for that matter. But like I said, I'm ready to get back into the groove of things. Let's go ahead and just jump straight in. I'm going to send you to, of all places, our bathroom. So we'll see you there.
All right, y'all. So this is what we're working with as far as the sink. Nothing fancy, just your normal single sink vanity. I've already taken the drawer front or the fake drawer front. It's this guy right here. Nice thing about it, it was just held in by a couple clips, which the clips are held in by two staples. Simply just take them off, and that now becomes our drawer front. Now, from the front view, this is what we see. We know that the sink's gonna get in the way a little bit, so we have to do a little bit of thinking, a little bit of drawing out and measuring out. But what I'm thinking here is there's going to be a box on the left side, box on the right side, because if you look, once we get past the sink from this side, there's about 20 inches worth of room that we can stick a box to go all the way down. So I've already done some measurements. I'm going to go draw it out so I can show y'all what it looks like. We just need to be a little creative when it comes to the middle part here, because it's definitely going to hit. I'm thinking we can get away with maybe a very shallow, low rectangular box right there in the middle to add extra storage, but we'll see. We'll draw it out and we'll go from there. All right, y'all. So I want to show you a little bit. It's a top-down view of what that drawer is going to look like. I've already taken a few measurements, so we know that the front measurement is 33 inches. We know that there's a sink right here. It's slightly off center by about an inch to the right. Not a huge deal. I've already taken into account for it, or at least I already know the measurements in my head. I know I can go back 19 inches total. I'm not gonna do a full 19 inches. I'm gonna err on the side of caution and just do 18. I think that's plenty enough. Now, the one in question, the measurement in question is, each drawer has 4 sides, obviously. I wanna know how close I can get to the sink without actually hitting it and without the drawer intruding on the sink and just hitting it in general. So I can probably get away with 10 inches. However, again, I'm going to err on the side of caution. We're going to do 9 inches on both sides. The one on the left side, I can definitely get away with 10, but just to make it identical, just to make less work for myself, we're going to make them 9 and we're going to make them equal. So they're both going to be 9 inches. The sink's a little off. Don't mind the drawing. It's just, thought process here. Now, if we were to leave it just like this, I think after some time, it would just bend left and right. So I do want some kind of brace up front here. Now, this brace can also turn into a bit of a drawer. It's not going to be as tall. Tall-wise, I'm going to go about 3.5 inches. I can definitely get away with that. It's a 4.5 inch opening. 3.5 is perfectly fine. It's not hitting any of the lines or anything like that. So perfectly fine. And then, so we'll have another little drawer box in the front. This one's probably only going to be about 2.5 inches. Again, just a little bit of extra space. Maybe you can throw a toothbrush, something in there, makeup brush, whatever it is. But again, just trying to be efficient and use as much of the space as we can without also overcomplicating it. I can definitely go in here and add some triangle pieces, but again, don't want to overcomplicate it. Just want a little bit of extra storage. So one drawer on the left, one drawer on the right, or I guess one box on the left, I should say, one box on the right, one box in the center. It's going to have 2 drawer slides on each side mounted drawer slides. I know, wonderful drawing and whatnot, but that's essentially what it's going to look like. So now it's, again, pretty simplified. I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces at 18 inches. 1, 2 at, it's going to be less than 9 because we got to account for the thickness of the material. So I'll do all of that here in a second. And then this center guy, I believe, actually we're just doing some math. 9 plus 9 is 15. Minus 33 is, no, 9 plus 9 is 18. 33 minus 18 is 15. There we go. So this guy's going to be 15 by about 4 inches right there. So again, that's what our drawer is going to look like. Let's get to work.
All right, so up first, we need to cut down some plywood into much more manageable pieces. Now, I already know that the height of the drawer is going to be 3.5 inches, so I go ahead and knock that out right now. Now, the first piece, I actually did it at 4 inches just because I wanted to come back and get a fresh, clean edge on it. That plywood has been sitting around my shop for a few months, and it has some nicks and cuts and bruises and whatnot, so I did that. All right, now it's time to cut down those long pieces down to exact length. One thing you will see me doing is You'll see me using the stop block plus a piece of wood to account for the thickness of the walls of the drawer. Instead of doing math, simple, nice little trick. Now our method of joinery is going to be pocket holes. They're quick, they're sturdy, they're honestly meant for this, and this is my go-to when it goes to drawers. After I pocket hole everywhere I need to, I move on to edge banding just to make the top nice and smooth and just overall make it look better. Now this is where you do want to take a little bit of care and see what side is your showpiece, what side isn't your showpiece, and again just take a little bit of time looking at where everything is. Now at this point, about 5 years ago, my wife would come into the garage and say, "Why are you ironing your wood? Why are you using my iron?" 5 years later, she's pretty much used to that. So, word of the wise, maybe buy yourself your own iron. Now moving along, I do swap out the blade for a dado stack, specifically a 1/4 inch dado stack. I could have used the blades and done multiple passes to get the thickness I need to make the rabbet in order to slide in the drawer bottoms. However, this is just a little bit quicker and it leaves a smoother finish after all. Now this is where you want to take just a few extra seconds, get yourself organized and make sure you're not going to make a mistake. The reason I say that is you need to realize where your edge banding is. You need to have the edge banding furthest away from the blade, just because the closer to the blade, that's going to be your bottom piece, and the edge banding obviously is going to be the top piece, and ultimately you want it in the right spot when it's done. Alright, moving on, now it's time to assemble the drawers minus the drawer bottoms. Now I'm using these Bessie corner clamps. They're really good at getting everything down to 90 degrees. They are a little bit finicky in my opinion, or at least for what I'm using them for. So again, they do what they're supposed to do. However, they do take a little bit longer than I would like them to. And here's where you see I actually do switch on over just to some regular clamps once I know that the box is perfectly 90 degrees. Now the only piece that I haven't cut down to final length is this middle section. Reason being is I wanted to have the box for the most part fully assembled so I can take the exact measurement from the actual box instead of my math. You know, things happen whenever you're making it. It can be off by a 16th, a 32nd, so on and so forth, and I just wanted to have it exact. Now we move on to the drawer bottoms. Now these are pretty simple. We're literally just gonna measure from the assembled drawer and add 5/8 of an inch in both directions. And that's gonna account for the drawer bottoms sliding into their little dado, or rabbit I should say. There are a total of 3 mistakes on this drawer, and here you can actually see 2 of them. First and foremost, I should have connected those pieces with the butt joints instead of the pocket hole screws, because now you can actually see the pocket hole that it leaves from the inside. And then secondly, the back panel I cut an inch too long. I didn't account for the drawer slide, so I did have to go back and recut it. It's unfortunate because I didn't catch this until after I made pocket holes, which it's not going to affect how they work, it's not going to affect any of the rigidity, and ultimately it's going to be hidden by the drawer front itself. So no harm, no foul. Now it's time to disassemble and move on forward, and here you can actually see me covering the holes that the pocket hole jig leaves behind. Now we move on over to sanding. I'm just using 220 grit sandpaper, and I am also making sure I cut in all of the edges, make sure there's no sharp edges left or anything like that. Same thing where the drawer bottoms are going to go, that way whenever it does come time to slide everything in, it goes nice and smoothly. Now moving into the home stretch, my choice of finish is going to be polyacrylic for a few reasons. Number one, it's very easy to apply. And number two, it does very well against water, since this is going to be a bathroom vanity or a bathroom drawer in a bathroom vanity. It's probably well that you go with something that's going to form a nice protective barrier. I did do a total of 3 coats, sanding in between with 220 grit sandpaper. And when you are sanding, you're not necessarily wanting to go too deep. You're just wanting to take away the bumps and ridges that the paint left when there's some imperfections on it. So you want to go ahead and just take those just slightly off. And now it's time for final assembly. Now you'll notice that I'm not necessarily using clamps here, simply because the pocket holes have already been driven in once. They'll simply go back into the exact same hole that they were already in and realign back exactly where they should be. I did have a little problem with the center drawer. It could be that the paint, or not the paint, but the finish maybe expanded it just by a hair. I did have to go back to the table saw and cut off about a 1/16 off in order for it to slide in perfectly smooth. Aside from that, everything else went pretty buttery smooth for that matter. Here's what the final piece looks like before assembly, and here's where you can also see that mistake I was talking about in the back panel. Again, it'll be hidden, you'll never be able to see it. There's mistake number 2, the data was in the wrong spot, and then mistake number 3 where we covered up with the plug holes. Now on to actually installing the drawer, and here's where you just hope and pray that all of your measurements that you took originally are correct, because if they're not, it can really be a headache. And if they are correct, honestly, installation should be buttery smooth. In this case, thankfully, for the most part, it was very nice, I should say. The only thing is it's a little cramped. You're working with the sink right next to you, so you have limited space. But aside from that, everything went nice and smooth. Now I like to do a total of 3 screws per drawer, but as you've seen, I only did 2, and that's because the third I won't go ahead and install it until after I actually take the drawer off, just because it's a lot easier to reach. And here's where it got a little real to me, because now we're working with an actual finished product that it's going to be the drawer front. So I really don't want to mess it up. I'm trying to be as careful as I can not to damage anything. But ultimately, all of this just pops right off. The staples gave me a little bit of a hard time, but ultimately we forced them out. Now, as far as installing the drawer to the drawer front or the drawer face, simply I took a lot of measurements. I measured quite a bit and spent quite a bit of time on there and hoped and prayed a little bit, but ultimately it went on very nicely and exactly where it should be. Lastly, we put on some bump stops so we don't have wood on wood contact and it just wears out over the years. It just simply hits the little rubber bump stops. Now I am very content with myself here. Slides in nice and smoothly, one finger, and that's it. And just like that, everyone, the drawer is done. What otherwise would have been just dead empty storage is now useful storage that is actually going to be used on a daily basis. It's a drawer. Things get put in there, especially a top drawer for that matter. So it's going to get plenty of use from here moving forward. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. With that, I will catch y'all later.